The burning Dakar sun was already beating down hard on the red tiles of Madame Faye's villa when Aminata Diallo crossed the gate of Almadies, her bucket of cleaning supplies in hand. At 45 years old, her calloused hands and bent back bore witness to 15 years spent cleaning the houses of the wealthy. But that morning, something in her employer's contemptuous gaze squeezed her heart more than usual. "Aminata, you did the windows poorly again yesterday. My guests noticed the streaks," Madame Faye called out from her terrace, paved with Italian marble, without even looking up from her mint tea. Around the teak table, 3 elegant women in gold-embroidered boubou observed the scene with that cruel curiosity of the privileged for others' misery. Aminata lowered her head, swallowing her pride, as she did every day. "I'm sorry, madame. I'll redo them immediately. And this time, pay attention. I don't pay for amateur work. In fact, this month's salary will be reduced by 10,000 francs. That will teach you precision." The crystal laughter of the guests rang out like slaps. Aminata clenched her teeth, thinking of Mamadou and Musa's faces that she would see tonight in their modest home in Medina. When she pushed open the corrugated iron door of their dwelling, the declining sun tinted the dusty alleys of the popular neighborhood orange. The scent of incense and thieboudienne, prepared by neighbors, floated in the warm air. Her 22-year-old twins were waiting for her, sitting on the colorful mats that served as their living room. Mamadou, older by a few minutes, had hands blackened by motor oil. His tired eyes reflected the frustrations of a mechanics graduate who could only find odd jobs. Musa, thinner, still smelled of sweat from Sandaga market, where he sold mangoes and oranges under the scorching heat. "How was your day, Mama?" asked Musa, noticing her slumped shoulders. Aminata forced a smile. How could she tell them she had been humiliated again, treated like less than nothing in front of women who spent in one evening what she earned in 6 months? "It's fine, my children. What matters is that you've eaten." But Mamadou knew his mother. He had grown up watching her leave before dawn and return exhausted, sacrificing her youth to give them an education. He remembered nights when she mended their school uniforms by candlelight, saving on electricity. He recalled her chapped hands in winter, her knees scraped from floors she scrubbed relentlessly. "Did Madame Faye give you trouble again?" Aminata's silence was more eloquent than any words. A tear formed in the corner of her tired eyes. "That woman doesn't know what dignity means," murmured Musa, his fists clenched. That night, when their mother finally fell asleep, exhausted by this day like all the others, the twins remained awake on their shared mattress. The creaking fan stirred the humid air of the cramped room. Outside, the last street vendors called out their wares, mixing French with Wolof in the familiar melody of Dakar falling asleep. "Did you see how sad she was tonight?" whispered Musa. 15 years she's endured this for us. 15 years of humiliation without ever complaining. She deserves so much better." Mamadou sat up, a new determination in his voice. "What if we showed her we've grown up, that we're no longer the kids she sacrifices for?" "How?" "Pap at the garage wants to sell his old Peugeot. If we both save, if we put aside every franc—" Musa understood immediately. Their eyes shone in the darkness. "A car for Mama. So she won't have to take those crowded buses anymore, endure those looks. We'll show her what we're capable of. We'll show her she raised men." The muezzin from the nearby mosque called the first prayer of dawn, but the twins still weren't sleeping, crafting their secret plan, their hearts swollen with filial love stronger than all the humiliations in the world. Tomorrow, their mission would begin. "Mama deserves better than this," breathed Mamadou in the dark. "We'll show her we're men." Pape's workshop echoed with the metallic crash of hammers on sheet metal and the hissing of blowtorches. In this cathedral of scrap metal, where the smells of burnt oil and welding intermingled, Mamadou had been working since dawn, his expert hands dismantling a dilapidated taxi engine. Each gesture brought him a few more francs. Each extra hour brought him closer to his secret goal. "Hey, Mamadou, what do you want to do with my tires by hanging around here so much?" joked Pepe, a giant with tattooed arms who had run the workshop for 20 years. "I need these extra hours, boss. You know that." Pape nodded. He knew the twins' situation, respected their determination. His gaze turned to the back of the yard, where a white Peugeot 504 with rusted bumpers had been waiting for a hypothetical buyer for months. "That old lady over there? Are you still interested?" Mamadou looked up, wiping his hands on his work overalls stained with grease. The car had seen better days, but its engine still ran, and its red vinyl seats retained a faded dignity that reminded him of his mother. "What's your final price, Pape?" "For you, my boy, 250,000, and that's only because I know your parents." On the other side of town, under the relentless midday sun, Musa arranged his fruits on his Sandaga market stall. Golden mangoes sat alongside juicy oranges and ripe bananas in a colorful ballet he had orchestrated for months with the precision of a conductor. Every sale counted. Every negotiation with the neighborhood's buy-fall was crucial. "Sama mangas yinekna," he cried in Wolof to passing women. "My mangoes are delicious!" A customer in an indigo boo-boo bargained hard. Musa gave up 500 francs on the price, but his smile remained intact. In his pocket, he felt the reassuring weight of the crumpled bills he accumulated day after day. Soon this sacrifice would have meaning. "Musa, my son," called Kumba, the neighboring fabric merchant. "I heard about your project for your mother. Here, take this." She discreetly slipped 10,000 francs into his hand. Musa's eyes misted over. "Aunt Kumba, I can't accept. Aminata has helped us all at one time or another. When my husband was sick, she cleaned my house for free. It's time to return the favor." The whole neighborhood knew. Aunt Astu, the hairdresser, had given her contribution. Uncle Modu, the cobbler, had insisted on contributing. Medina's solidarity was organizing in secret, weaving around the twins' project an invisible but solid network, like the century-old baobab in the market square. Meanwhile, in the air-conditioned villa of Almadies, a storm was brewing. Aminata had dared the unthinkable, asking for an advance on her salary to repair her house's leaking roof. An advance? Madame Fay had burst out laughing in front of her guests gathered for tea. "Do you think I'm a bank? What's next?" "Madame, it's just that the rainy season is coming and—" "Silence! How dare you demand money you haven't earned yet? You domestics, that's all you know. Asking, always asking." The other women snickered, their gold jewelry glittering in the sun. Aminata shrank into herself, but something in her refused to bend completely. "I've worked for you for 15 years, madam. I've always been honest and—" "Honest? And you think honesty gives you rights? Get out of my sight before I fire you permanently." That evening, when Aminata came home with red eyes, her sons exchanged a meaningful look. Their mother collapsed on the mat, exhausted by so much humiliation. "Children, I think I'm going to lose my job," she murmured. "No, Mama," said Mamadou firmly. "You won't lose anything. We'll take care of everything." Later, in the deserted garage yard, the twins counted their savings by flashlight. Crumpled bills, worn coins, neighborhood donations, 180,000 francs. They still needed 70,000. "We're almost there, brother," breathed Musa. "Pape, we need to talk," Mamadou called to the mechanic closing his workshop. The negotiation was tough. Pape knew their situation, but he also had his expenses. Finally, touched by their determination, he accepted an arrangement. 180,000 cash, the rest in 3 monthly payments. When they shook the mechanic's hand, he looked at them with a strange expression. "This car, my children, it belonged to an important man before. Monsieur Bakari Ndiaye, a rich merchant who died 15 years ago. His family sold it quickly after his death, as if they wanted to get rid of it." He paused, his eyes narrowed in thought. "This car hides something important, my children." Sunday morning, Aminata was preparing Café Touba in the yard when she heard the purr of an engine in front of her door. Curious, she went out and stood petrified. Her twins were getting out of an old white Peugeot 504, their faces illuminated by a mixture of pride and emotion. "Mama," said Mamadou, approaching, keys in hand. "We have something for you." Musa positioned himself on the other side, their smiles trembling with anticipation. "It's all we have, but it's with love," they murmured together, holding out the worn keys. Aminata looked at her sons and the car in turn, incredulous. Her hands began to tremble, then tears burst forth without her being able to hold them back. 22 years of sacrifices, swallowed humiliations, sleepless nights worrying about their future. And here were her children, her precious children, returning all that love in a single gesture. My babies, how did you do this?" She held them close, crying with joy and gratitude. The neighborhood came out of houses, drawn by the scene. Aunt Kumba applauded. Uncle Modu discreetly wiped his eyes. Even the neighbors' children understood they were witnessing something beautiful and rare. "Come on, Mama, take a look around," encouraged Musa. Aminata settled behind the wheel, tenderly caressing the cracked leather. She mechanically opened the glove compartment to store her papers and froze. Inside, a yellowed envelope bore writing in Arabic and French. Her hands trembled as she recognized familiar calligraphy. "What is it, Mama?" asked Mamadou. Aminata carefully removed the documents. A will, notarized deeds, photos. Her heart stopped when she read the name. Bakari Ndiaye, merchant residing in Dakar. "No, this isn't possible," she stammered. The twins leaned over her shoulder and read the words that would change their lives. "I hereby bequeath to my sons, Mamadou and Musa Diallo, born of my liaison with Aminata Diallo, the entirety of my possessions." Silence fell like a lead weight. Aminata dropped the papers that scattered on her lap. "Papa," breathed Musa, the words strange in his mouth. "Mama, explain to us," implored Mamadou, his voice breaking. In the modest living room, under the protective gaze of Grandfather Salu's portrait, Aminata finally revealed the truth she had kept for 23 years. "I was 22 when I entered Bakari Ndiaye's service. He was a good, generous man, but married according to tradition. His first wife didn't give him male children." Her voice broke. Memories flooded back, complicit looks, sweet words exchanged in secret, the tenderness of a powerful man who treated her like a queen when no one was watching. "He loved me, I know it. But when I got pregnant, his family did everything to chase me away. A domestic carrying the boss's child. The scandal was unacceptable." "And he let you leave?" asked Mamadou, anger piercing his voice. "He wanted to marry us, officially recognize his sons. But 3 days before the ceremony, he died in a car accident, mysteriously." The twins exchanged a loaded look. In this Senegal, where inheritances arouse so much greed, the sudden accidents of wealthy businessmen often fuel rumors. That same afternoon, Mamadou went to the Plateau District Law Office, the documents pressed against his chest. He needed legal advice, but also answers that his mother dared not formulate. Fatou Sarr received him in a modest but orderly office. At 28, this Paris-trained jurist had chosen to return to serve her country rather than get rich in Europe. Her natural curly hair framed a refined face, where intelligent and determined eyes shone. "Tell me everything," she said, settling across from him. Mamadou unfolded their story, from buying the car to the will's revelations. Fatou listened without interrupting, taking notes in a red leather-bound notebook. "These documents seem authentic," she murmured, examining the official seals. "If that's the case, you are indeed the legitimate heirs of a considerable commercial empire. But someone else inherited, didn't they? His widow and adopted son, Cheikh Ndiaye. They now run all his businesses." Their eyes met. In Fatou's eyes, Mamadou read a determination that echoed his own. She too knew injustice. She too had grown up watching the powerful crush the weak. "Would you help us?" he asked, his voice softer than he intended. "Justice is my calling," she replied simply. But when she placed her hand on his to reassure him, they both felt something deeper than a simple professional relationship happening. Evening was falling on Medina when Mamadou returned home, his heart torn between hope and worry. His mother was waiting for him in the yard, her face grave. "I did some research, Mama. We have rights." "My children," she said, taking them by the hands, "you need to know something. This afternoon, Madame Ndiaye came to see me." The twins stiffened. "She knows we found the papers. She offered me money to keep quiet. A lot of money." "And what did you say?" "That truth cannot be bought." Aminata paused, her eyes shining with new determination. "But now I'm afraid. They stole everything for 15 years, and they know that we know." In the plush office of the Ndiaye villa in Almadies, the atmosphere was electric. Madame Ndiaye, a 60-year-old woman with flashy jewelry, paced back and forth in front of her adopted son Cheikh, a 35-year-old man in an impeccable suit with cold eyes. "This domestic dares to blackmail us," she hissed, nervously crumpling her embroidered handkerchief. "After everything we've built." Cheikh adjusted his gold watch, a sign of nervousness she knew well. "Mother, calm down. Bakary has been dead for 15 years. Who will believe the claims of a cleaning woman and her bastards? She has the papers, Cheikh, the original will. If this gets out, then we make sure it never does." The next morning, Aminata arrived at Madame Fay's as usual, but the reception was icy. Her employer was waiting for her on the terrace, surrounded by 3 men in suits she didn't know. "Aminata, these gentlemen wanted to speak with you," said Madame Fay, with a hypocritical smile. The tallest stepped forward, pulling out a business card. "Commissioner Diop, I've received complaints about you. Theft, blackmail, serious accusations." Aminata's blood froze. She immediately understood the trap. "Commissioner, I haven't stolen anything. Silence. You'd better return what doesn't belong to you, otherwise." He left his sentence hanging, but the message was clear. Aminata felt her legs tremble. "Your employment here ends immediately," added Madame Fay. "And don't count on finding work elsewhere. We have influence." In her plateau office, Fatou was meticulously examining each document with a magnifying glass. Mamadou sat facing her, admiring despite himself her concentration and the way her eyebrows furrowed when she thought intensely. "These seals are authentic," she murmured, looking up at him. "Your father had indeed planned to bequeath his empire to you. And now we fight. But I must warn you, they won't sit idly by." Their hands brushed when she handed him a file. This time neither immediately withdrew their hand. In this silent office, with only the legal codes lined up on the shelves as witnesses, something tender and strong was being born between them. "Fatou," he said softly, "why are you really helping us?" She looked him straight in the eyes. "Because justice is all I have left of idealism in this world. And because," she paused, blushing slightly, "because I believe in you." Youssou N'Dour's Mbalax escaped from a nearby radio, mixing its melody with this suspended moment. Mamadou took her hand in his. "If we win, everything will change for us. You know that, I know. But some fights are worth fighting, even when you risk losing everything." That night, Medina slept with one eye open. Uncle Modou, installed in front of his cobbler shop, had noticed the black car that had been circling the neighborhood for hours. And Kumba had seen strangers asking questions about the Diallo family. Around 2 in the morning, 3 men tried to force Aminata's door, but they had underestimated the neighborhood's solidarity. At the first suspicious noise, the by-fall from the street corner sounded the alarm. In minutes, 20 men armed with sticks and machetes surrounded the burglars. "What are you looking for here?" asked Papa Samba, the neighborhood elder, his voice carrying the authority of his 70 years. The intruders fled without asking for their rest, but the message was clear. You don't touch the children of Medina with impunity. At dawn, the whole family was gathered in the yard. Aminata, her features drawn by a sleepless night, held her sons close to her. The emotion was palpable, fear, but also a new determination. "Mama, we won't let them scare us," declared Musa, his fists clenched. "They can buy the police, corrupt judges, but they can't buy our dignity," added Mamadou. Aminata looked at them, These men her babies had become. In their eyes, she found Bakari's strength and pride. My children, I'm afraid. Not for me, but for you. These people are powerful. And we have the truth, replied Mamadou. A taxi stopped in front of their door. A man in a suit got out, carrying a leather briefcase. He approached them with a smile that fooled no one. Madame Diallo, I come on behalf of the Ndiaye family. They would like to meet with you this afternoon to discuss. He placed the briefcase on the plastic table in the yard and opened it. Rows of new bills aligned perfectly. A down payment of 10 million CFA francs for your definitive silence on this regrettable affair. Aminata looked at the money, then her sons, then the man with the false smile. And if we refuse? You won't refuse, madam. Nobody refuses. When the man left, leaving the open briefcase on the table, heavy silence settled. 10 million. Enough to live with dignity for years, enough to forget the humiliations. Mama, whispered Musa, troubled by the sum. It's a lot of money. Aminata slowly closed the briefcase, her hands trembling slightly. Tomorrow, they offer us 10 million for our silence. It's a trap. The Ndiaye messenger had been waiting in the yard for an hour, nervously tapping his fingers on his briefcase. Around him, neighbors had gathered in a silent circle, their gazes weighing on him like collective judgment. Aminata finally emerged from her house, straight and dignified despite her sleepless night. Her sons flanked her, forming a rampart of flesh and blood around their mother. In her eyes shone a new determination, forged by 15 years of humiliation and crystallized in a single night. Here is our answer, she said, pushing the briefcase toward the man. Madame, think carefully. 10 million it's the price you put on our dignity. But our dignity cannot be bought. Her voice carried throughout the neighborhood. Women in colorful boo-boos applauded. Men nodded with respect. Aunt Kumba wiped away a tear of pride. You're making a serious mistake, threatened the messenger, sharply closing his briefcase. The only mistake I made, replied Aminata, was staying silent for 15 years. News spread through Medina faster than the Harmattan. Papa Samba convened the Council of Elders under the century-old baobab. Drums resonated in the alleys, calling for mobilization. This time, it wasn't just about defending one family, but resisting the oppression of the powerful. Our children deserve better than this world where money buys everything, declared Imam Tal, his white beard trembling with emotion. If we don't stand up today, who will tomorrow? From dawn, a crowd formed spontaneously in front of the courthouse. Women in bright panes, men in grand boubou, young people in colorful t-shirts, all of Medina was there. Resistance songs rose in Wolof and French, carried by voices that refused to bend. Justice na, they chanted. We want justice. In her office, Fatou worked with the determination of a lioness protecting her cubs. Files spread out, legal codes open, she methodically built her strategy. Mamadou watched her work, admiring this woman who had given up Parisian privileges to serve her people. I found something, she said suddenly, her eyes bright with excitement. The Ndiaye family embezzled the inheritance, but not just yours. Look. She showed him documents she had unearthed from the archives. 3 other legitimate heirs have been pushed aside these past 10 years. Always the same process: corruption of the notary, falsification of wills. How many families have they done this to? Too many, but now we have enough to confound them. The excitement of discovery brought them physically closer. Leaning over the same documents, their faces inches from each other, they felt the electricity that had crackled between them since their first meeting. Fatou, murmured Mamadou, his voice hoarse. If we lose tomorrow, we won't lose. But if it happened, I wanted you to know. She placed a finger on his lips, then replaced that finger with her mouth. The kiss was both tender and passionate, charged with everything they hadn't dared tell each other. Outside, the protest songs rose like a blessing on their budding love. I love you, she confessed against his lips. Since the first day. Me too. Whatever happens tomorrow, I love you. In her house transformed into headquarters, Aminata received a parade of support. Entire families came to show their solidarity, bringing rice, dried fish, tea. The former, effaced cleaning woman had disappeared, replaced by a woman standing tall, proud of her origins and her children. "Aunt Aminata," said respectfully a young man she had watched grow up, "my grandfather was also robbed by the rich. Thanks to you, we can finally hope for justice." "My daughter," an old woman with white hair told her, "you carry the hope of all the humiliated." And for the first time in her life, Aminata felt important, respected. She was no longer the domestic they despised, but the courageous mother who dared challenge the unjust order. "My children," she said to her twins when the crowd dispersed, "your father would be proud of us." Mamadou and Musa surrounded her with their arms, forming an indestructible trinity. "Tomorrow, we take back what belongs to us," declared Musa. "Tomorrow, we prove that truth is stronger than money," added Mamadou. But at 11 o'clock, Fatou burst into their home, her face devastated. In her trembling hand was a mobile phone. "I just received a call from my contact at the courthouse. Judge Sen has been replaced at the last moment by Judge Diop, the own brother of the commissioner who threatened you." Silence fell like a cleaver. All the day's hopes collapsed at once. "What does that mean?" asked Aminata, though she already knew the answer. Fatou looked at them with eyes full of tears and rage. "The judge has been bought. Tomorrow, we lose everything." At dawn on Judgment Day, a miracle occurred. Fatou received a call that would change everything. An RFI journalist had heard about their story. Within hours, the Diallo versus Ndiaye case was making rounds on African social networks, attracting international press attention. Justice for Aminata was trending on Twitter. Senegalese from the diaspora massively shared their support. Media pressure became such that the Ministry of Justice was forced to act. At precisely 9 o'clock, a new judge entered the packed courtroom. Madame Kadi Fall, a magistrate with a reputation for incorruptibility, just back from training at the International Criminal Court. Her firm gaze and reputation for integrity gave new hope to the Diallo family. In the front rows, Aminata was surrounded by all of Medina. Aunt Kumba wore her most beautiful golden bubu. Papa Samba wore his special occasion hat. Facing them, the Ndiaye family sat in their European suits, displaying arrogance that poorly masked their growing nervousness. "Madame Diallo," began Judge Fall, "present us your evidence." Fatou stood up, radiant in her lawyer's robe. With surgical precision, she unrolled 15 years of lies and corruption. Authenticated documents, testimonies from repentant notaries, evidence of other embezzled inheritances, everything connected with implacable logic. "Your Honor," she said in a clear voice, "we're not asking for charity, but justice. These children were deprived of their father and their inheritance. This woman raised the legitimate sons of Bakari Ndiaye alone in poverty, while others enriched themselves with her children's money." When testimony time came, an entire neighborhood stood up. Imam Tol testified to Aminata's integrity. Uncle Modu recounted this courageous mother's sacrifices. Aunt Kumba spoke of the generosity of a woman who shared the little she had. "This woman," declared Papa Samba in a voice trembling with emotion, "raised her children with dignity. She taught them that honor is worth more than gold. These boys saved penny by penny to offer their mother a car. That's who they really are." Madame Ndiaye attempted a pathetic last defense, invoking her wife's rights. But when Fatou produced evidence of Bakari's bigamy and the unofficial recognition of the twins, the edifice of lies collapsed. Sheikh couldn't explain how he had falsified the notarized documents. Faced with overwhelming evidence, he finally cracked. "Yes, we did everything to keep the inheritance. This domestic and her bastards deserved nothing." The silence that followed was more eloquent than any closing arguments. Class contempt had just revealed itself in broad daylight before cameras from around the world. "After deliberation," announced Judge Fall, "the court recognizes Mamadou and Musa Diallo as legitimate heirs of Bakari Ndiaye. The entirety of the embezzled assets will be restored to them. Furthermore, Madame Ndiaye and Monsieur Cheikh Ndiaye are condemned for fraud and document forgery. The explosion of joy was indescribable. Aminata collapsed in tears in her son's arms, 15 years of injustice evaporating at once. The Medina neighborhood sang victory songs, transforming the courthouse into a place of popular celebration. 6 months later, Aminata inaugurated the Bakari Ndiaye Foundation for the Dignity of Domestic Women, offering professional training and legal support to exploited domestics. In her office, located in the former premises of the recovered family business, she received daily women who lived what she had lived. "Madame Diallo," a young domestic told her, "thanks to you, I finally dare claim my rights." "My daughter," replied Aminata tenderly, "dignity isn't a privilege, it's a right." Fatou and Mamadou's wedding was celebrated according to tradition under Medina's baobab. No unnecessary pomp, but a simple and authentic ceremony. The imam recited sacred verses, elders shared blessed kola nuts, griots sang of love, triumphing over adversity. Aminata, resplendent in her white bubu embroidered with gold, blessed the union of her son and the woman who had brought justice to their family. In her eyes shone deep peace, that of someone who had finally found their place in the world. "My children," she said, placing her hands on their heads, "your father would have been proud. You proved that love can move mountains." Musa, who had become commercial director of the family business, raised his glass of bisap. "To Mama, who taught us that true wealth isn't in what we own, but in what we give." While Mbalak's music resonated in the Dakar night, Aminata contemplated her reunited family. From humiliated domestic, she had become a respected woman. From nameless bastards, her sons had become legitimate heirs. From injustice was born justice. From humiliation was born pride. "Love and dignity are worth more than all the gold in the world," she murmured, looking at the stars. "When we give with our heart, even the smallest gift can change destiny." This story reminds us of a universal truth. Authentic love and gestures from the heart have the power to transform the darkest destinies. Aminata, Mamadou, and Musa teach us that dignity doesn't depend on our social position, but on our values and our courage to defend what is just. Sometimes, a simple gift offered with love can trigger a revolution that changes not only a family, but an entire community. Solidarity, perseverance, and faith in justice can triumph over the most corrupt systems. This lesson resonates particularly in Africa, where so many families struggle for recognition and dignity in the face of social inequalities. If this story touched you, don't hesitate to subscribe to our channel to discover other inspiring stories that celebrate African culture and universal human values. Leave a like if you enjoyed this story, activate the notification bell to not miss any of our new publications, and tell us in the comments which country you're watching us from. I can't wait to know our beautiful international community following us from all corners of the world.